Hello, everyone. It's me and Daniel back from the dead, or me back from like a couple days ago, and Daniel back for the dead, revived now in Yellowknife, here for a live stream, not to talk about anything particular in Canadian politics, because I think at some point people get annoyed when every stream's just summing up last week in politics. Every once in a while that's required, not always required. But today, all I want to do is force Daniel to watch and look at the
TikTok.
the worst liberal TikTok videos from this guy I love to watch videos from now. But first, we will talk about a few, at least Twitter posts while people get in here. I don't want to leave this as a channel whenever we do a live stream like everyone else. We just sit around for 20 minutes saying, oh, we're going to start soon when more people get in.
We will start now for the hardcores who will get the
Yeah.
best of this, which is the advice: get off TikTok. I
Yeah.
have never downloaded TikTok, so if you send me TikToks, I won't watch them. It is Chinese spyware.
Yeah.
Somehow, it's ruining society. It's the reason the kids are into Osama bin Laden. Guys, nuke TikTok. I am calling for a thermonuclear first strike against TikTok. Daniel, it doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. I haven't thought about it that hard, but I do believe in it. We should.
Yeah. Even
TikTok.
for a serious point, even if people are going to be like, but if you get rid of TikTok, a new American version of TikTok would just pop up. Good.
Fine.
Good. Like,
Yes.
Fair enough. The thing is,
Literally, the U.S. government should back a TikTok alternative. Like, we've known since Vine, and even before that, okay, there's one before that. Like, short video platform, people really like it, and it will be successful, but you can't monetize it, right? You can't really monetize TikTok, but the CCP is just putting TikTok out there because they know destroying the West is worth it for them. Like, that's what they're getting out of it. That's why TikTok is viable. So,
well, and even
man Daniel.
Even the most left-wing social media company, if they did their own version of TikTok, it wouldn't have nearly as much of a cultural Marxist algorithm to it. It's just a thing that TikTok in just TikTok in general's algorithm, when you when you sort of test it on certain subjects, I think they found on Israel versus Palestine, it's like a 13-to-1 distribution difference between pro Hamas posts to Israel posts. Anyways, but before we go to the TikTok videos, again, I do not have TikTok. I am just using my desktop, and I will quickly shut it down, scrub my computer after viewing TikTok.
Burn your computer. Just why we'll be burning his computer.
Yeah, no, and I've actually heard that if you keep it open on desktop, it can read your other tabs. So you don't keep it open for long. I am putting my life on the line for you people. But first, I want to talk about some crazy liberal tweets on X. For some reason, and this is what I mean when I say that the left is extremely reactionary these days. It's always this trope oh, it's the reactionary right. People always talk about the reactionary right, and those people exist. The amount of just knee-jerk conservative bad posting on liberal X is really the root why people don't support the liberals anymore. It's basically become a party for people who don't like the conservatives, just as the PPC is a party for people who just don't like the conservatives. So, Daniel, can you see anything wrong with this post?
Despite having 38 less MPs than the Liberals, Conservatives have spent the Liberals on funded tax travel by does this not count like government?
Yes, you're correct.
Is that okay? There we go.
Yes, you are. At the same time, it also doesn't even measure distance to Ottawa. The vast majority of Liberal MPs live in a tiny bubble around.
Well, it's Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto is
and there's a few people from Vancouver, but
in Vancouver, right? But
yeah, but from that perspective, per capita, the highest spending party per capita for travel would be the Greens because of Elizabeth May and Saanich in the Gulf Islands. That it's a meaningless thing. I think it's Charlie Angus right now on Twitter. He has a really terrible not TikTok video. It probably is on TikTok. Actually, I might want to look it up. But the NDP has this weird thing where they're going after Polyev because he happens to have a house in Ottawa because he's the opposition leader, and he's a big hypocrite if he doesn't just burn down his own house. I don't know. I guess as the opposition,
it's a thing the liberal elites do every time they're in power. It's the opposition says we should spend less tax dollars, yet they live in the opposition leadership house. It's we have a house for the leader of the official opposition. Should we? Maybe not. But of all the things the government spends money on, I don't care. That would I have rathered Aaron O'Toole be homeless for a year? Yeah, that would have been more fun for me. But this is not a thing I don't like wasteful tax spending, and I don't like Aaron O'Toole, but that was not a thing that I went after Aaron O'Toole or the tax dollars on. So we have a super. Let's address the super chats, Wyatt.
Oh, there is one. Wow, I didn't even notice.
There you go.
Great coverage on Toronto's Sun and its cartoonish Theo Greek name being completely loser, Wyatt. It's the Toronto Star, to be fair, but I get your point. By the way, Daniel, you've been less active on YouTube. Daniel is literally always busy fighting the jihadists in Toronto and doing other things. So I never blame him if he does not have the time to sit down and make a video. Salmon got his shoulder dislocated the other day when him and Daniel were counter-protesting the people trying to shut down Christmas.
Yeah, we can go into that story later. We can watch some TikToks at the end if people want to hear the stories of some of the inside fighting the Christmas jihad or the anti-Christmas jihad.
That night that it happened, I did go over some of the videos, but I guarantee you probably have more. But the cartoon from Theo Dukakis, or whatever, I feel like I'm going to accidentally call him Dukakis or something like Michael Dukakis, Mudakis. This is his cartoon. I don't know why. The Toronto Star could easily just fire him if they wanted to save some money because they're constantly running out of funds. Imagine paying for this cartoon. It's just like, sure, it's been a rough year, but let's remember one thing as we head into 2024. We're Canada. We may be a little bruised, but we're not nearly as broken as some want us to believe. Who paid for that? I don't know what. Like,
well, it's propaganda. I would, if I was a Toronto Star, I'd pay for that because that's exactly the narrative you want out there. Like, I think you hit it on the head. Like, this is the narrative that the liberals want. Is like, oh, you're complaining? You're an extremist. Yes, there are problems, and yes, there is homelessness out of control, drug abuse, fentanyl, medical assisted dying, but it's not as bad as South Sudan is right now with a bunch of jihadists roaming around killing everyone. So everyone, pump the brakes, because listen, we're just on the pathway to destruction. We're not in the apocalypse right now.
Here, what I'll add is in the comments for Theo's like cartoon or the replies, there were so many people saying, "Oh, the Conservatives missed that Canada was rated, or like Vancouver or Toronto and Calgary were rated the two best places in the world to live."
Oh, I hate this. You're gonna make me rant.
You know why Theo did not put that in his cartoon? That while some people want to say that we're broken, we actually have two cities in the top 10 of the world because nobody actually believes that's true. It's just a stupid metric based on nothing. You can't.
It's metrics based on nothing from center left elites who've never even went to Toronto once and were like, oh, I had a really good kebab, and then I had some fusion food, and then I went to the TTC, and I didn't, and the train stayed on the tracks, so it was great. And then I went to my hotel and went to sleep. What a great city! And then they hate America, so they're like, oh, New York, or this is that, and it. And what I hate about the Canadian elites the most is they would watch the country burn. They would allow a million Canadians to die if it helped them out on some imaginary rating from a BS global NGO to put Canada 3 slots higher. So we could begin what does livable countries even mean? No one knows. It's complete. But to go from 6 to 3, they'd be fine if a million people died. But they would be fine if if the Palestinians lost their mind and just killed a million people, but that would somehow bring us from 6 to 3 on the imaginary scale of BS. Then I would do that.
That's the entire 15. That's the entire 15-minute city thing. People who want every city to be like Paris or Amsterdam, or places that aren't even objectively very good, but for some reason every city must be this weird model that got praised in the 70s or something like that. Okay, another one. Thank you, Patch Torres. Toronto Sun, Toronto Star, potato. Okay. Either can be replaced by the first generation AI. Good to know Daniel's busy. I miss his old Cryon green screen. Would Wyatt consider the stepping up for his videos, the setup for his videos? I don't know. I'm not good with green screens. I also like my props, and I can slowly expand.
Also, I will say the green screen score thing, that was at Tag Team. So there was a technical crew. That set that up for me. So you needed someone on my boy Shivam on the thing. There was that was a whole that required a crew.
Green screens only also ever look so good. I've never seen a green screen where I'm like, wow, that green screen. It's a green screen at the end of the day. But I want to just to finish off on this thing. There's a reason he had to at least admit that Canada's bruised. It's because nobody believes we're really batting 1,000 here. And even he even thinks that we're not doing well. There's a reason why he makes, because he's more left-wing than even the liberals. Theo makes cartoons like this, alluding to a crazy cost of living crisis, and supposedly the liberals are not doing enough to address it. And but then, because Poilievre, since the country's broken, he basically rushes to the aid and becomes the white knight of Canada, saying, actually, it's pretty great. Whatever, Theo. He wasn't the guy who made it, but this is like in the sort of realm of the guy who made that like trucker fascism cartoon. Just like anything the conservatives say is like the devil incarnate, and they'll still rag on the liberal.
I sort of Terry K's most recent comment. The most recent.
I want to get a cardboard cutout of Andrew Coyne and place it over his shoulder. I could do that. I would do that if I could find a way to get cardboard cutouts. I don't know how it works. I would do that, or get a cardboard cutout of Daniel. I love your guys' content. Have you seen Northern Perspectives video on their spring elections predictions? I don't know if they are right, but it's a great vid. I don't watch that much Northern Perspectives, or I've seen them a little bit. I think you were the one who brought them up to me, Chandler. And the way I watched him is that, I don't know, I'd have to go back. I remember I had a critique about one of his videos or something like that. Maybe we could react to one of his videos at some point. Do I want to go over a couple more of these? Like this guy, I just like using his account as like an example. This is just like what left-wing Twitter has become. Like beginning of December 2023, cons 204, libs 63. These are like, average seat projections based on 338. End of December 2023, cons 191, libs 83. And it's like, no wonder Pierce skipped on his year-end media interviews to go on vacation. He didn't. He literally did not. Justin Trudeau did late end of the year interviews. The year ended, and then it took like Trudeau like 2 weeks to actually do any videos, because he realized that Poilievre was like getting a lot of traction based off of his end of year videos. But this person does not see that. And the great thing is the guy we're going to watch TikTok videos from, it's posts like this, but manifest into a man speaking on camera. Just half remembered stuff. Like this one right here, Pierre Poilievre. Trudeau is paid for mainstream media. Also Pierre Poilievre. Post-CBC articles, post-CTV articles, and all this stuff. It's like, this is like the meme of like the peasant working and saying, I don't like society. And then like the leftist popping out of the well saying, but yet you participate in society. It's like, what is he supposed to invent his own media company to share articles from? The CBC's, his problem is not the CBC is like wall-to-wall fake news. That's where I don't consider like the CBC 100% fake news. It's 95% true facts, and then 5% spin that makes people think they're more liberal than they are because the story leads you in that direction. The CBC is bad because it's subtle.
Or you could say, or if it is like 95% true facts or like 90% facts with 10% spin, you also have to admit that it's not 90% of the available facts. It is, often like 50% of the facts. So there's also lying by omission and context is the biggest way the mainstream media lies.
Yeah,
right.
You never go. Other than like if they're reporting on Israel, there's usually never just like a complete fabrication. Also, all of the people, not anyone in our chats, but all the people are like, the Jewish media conspiracy, Jews own the media. Like, well, they do a bad job of it because for some reason they can't get any news hosts outside of like Fox News to not like spread anti-Semitic propaganda. The guy I picked to run in my running was a liberal. I'm suspicious that he's running for the CPC because I saw the writing on the wall. Which riding are you in, David? Because I would actually be curious. Was it someone who crossed the floor, or is it a guy who previously ran for the Liberals or is super liberal and then is now running in the nomination? I always hate that. It's actually kind of a cancer in strong conservative ridings. The weakest conservative MPs are in strong conservative ridings. Durham is a super strong conservative riding, and we somehow had Aaron O'Toole representing it. Jamil Javani is a great upgrade. If anyone knows Jamil, he actually was at the Strong and Free Network and left because they were too left-wing for him, because he couldn't stand that they wouldn't let him platform social conservatives more often, or like more hawkish fiscal conservatives. You could only...
Same thing in the National Post. He wouldn't toe the line of being like a token black guy. So, I mean...
He did it for like a second at like Doug Ford's thing after the George Floyd thing. I think Doug, and I think I've heard that he actually kind of hates Ford for this, where he had to come out and say, the black community's had a problem trusting the Toronto police. It's like, that's not a thing in Toronto. That's just not.
That's an American thing. Our problem is our black people are actually the indigenous population. Like, that's our historic, like, where we have we don't need to relitigate this. Okay, let's watch some awful TikToks. I have not seen these TikToks. Wyatt has chosen them. Yeah. So he's going to show me these TikToks from hell, and then I am going to die of an aneurysm.
I've described a couple of them to you, but they don't really. It does. What I described does not do it justice. Obviously,
show me this train wreck. Let's.
Obviously, you've been to university. I've been to university. I've even about to get my graduate degree. Bragging. The fact that I can get a graduate degree means is not impressive in any way. So that's one thing to take away from this episode. But this guy reminds me of every single very liberal person in my in my classes, knows a couple half-remembered facts about things, and because he's become on like the left-wing establishment of the campus, has this like outsized, arrogant personality to like that backs up all of his beliefs and the way he kind of projects himself. I want to show you this one where he goes after conservative MP Michelle Ferrari for going into the men's bathroom. Obviously, and remember, he's cut this video off. The background is that Michelle Ferrari is going after the liberals for wasting money. And, most notably recently, the liberals paying for women's, tampons and pads being put in men's bathrooms in all federally regulated buildings. That's airports, that's Parliament, that's even some banks have to do it because they're so heavily regulated by the federal government. They're terrified. But let's get into this. This guy's name's like JB. I don't know what his actual name is. Oh, he's poli-sci. Oh, he's a socialist. I didn't realize that.
No, a poli-sci socialist. Okay, let's do this.
Ooh, can people hear this? What the heck? No. Okay, wait a second. So if I can get this up.
Come on in. So this is the men's bathroom. And I want to show you what has been put in the bathrooms. That is period products for federally regulated employees. I can't stress enough to you how out of touch this is.
Do we not see the irony in this whole thing? This is Peterborough Kawartha Member of Parliament, Michelle Ferrari. This is the same Member of Parliament that is trying to do that public petition to get Trudeau's non-confidence motion. Clearly somebody that understands the parliamentary process. But I digress. She just walked into a public bathroom on Parliament Hill, like clearly a public washroom, unannounced, and
she actually was announced for anyone watching. Literally, there was a reason there was a male assistant standing at the door. She had him go in and just scout it out to make sure she wasn't going to like interrupt anyone in the bathroom to be able to film this ridiculousness.
Yeah, we all know that. Finish this abomination because he's misused irony, and I'm focused in.
Yeah, my thing is what's annoying is he's seen the full video, so he just lied because he knows his audience on TikTok.
I love it. Like the iron. Like, can we reverse it? Like, this is a man complaining that like someone's making washrooms unsafe from the liberal perspective. Like, dude, that's like our thing. Of like why the trans nonsense needs to go, right?
I like how he put hashtag trans in the video description on the right, even though I don't think even the word is mentioned in the entire video.
Well, no, this is trans. This is trans nonsense. To be fair to him, this is trans nonsense.
Would screech if a woman walked into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Just went in to find period products in the bathroom. Her mind's going to be blowing that the government's giving out soap and water and toilet paper for free as well in these bathrooms. But either way, she says this is out of touch, but their whole argument is that bathrooms are supposed to be a safe space for people, and they don't want trans people in bathrooms because there might be a privacy violation or, at the very worst, like some sort of SA. Yet she just blatantly just walked into a male bathroom, recording on a camera because she heard that there's tampons.
Did she hear about it, or are there tampons in the bathroom? It's just like his stupid point too.
Yeah, the government was pretty proud about this. Like, Trudeau announced it. Like, the government was like, "We did it. We now have tampons in all the men's washrooms. Like, look at us. We're amazing." And I was like, yeah, like that's how she found them. And it's not like, she found them. It's like, haha, this idiot set up looking for gold. What a dumbass. As he's like carrying a treasure chest of like Cortez's like,
and just the comparison to toilet paper and soap. You mean, things people need. That is complete, like, what, like, you can, based on his argument here, you could just have anything for free in the bathroom. And he's like, you don't think we should offer that for free in the bathroom? Well, we also have toilet paper and soap. But this man is above the age of 18, and this is the sort of content he is taking out of the Michelle Fieri video, not the fact that she's arguing that this is a massive waste of money. He has not laid a glove on this yet.
I just don't get what their thought process here is. Like, because trans men exist, and trans men are men, but trans men may still have the parts in their body that produces a period, because they are transitioning away from being a woman, yet still might have a uterus and reproductive parts. So they still get a period. So yes, there needs to be period products in both male and female bathrooms, and any gender neutral bathroom for that matter, because it's important. Furthermore, even if you're not a trans man, period products are expensive, and perhaps maybe putting period products in the male bathroom will remind maybe a dad or a husband to take one home for their loving partner or their young.
Okay, I mean,
I'm just pausing on that. Let you absorb it.
We've established he's a socialist. Hold up. So yes, they're expensive. So why not give it to them for free? Because then this is the new category for things that should be free. Anything that is expensive. Homes are expensive. Therefore, everyone should have one for free. Food is getting expensive. Therefore, everyone should have free food. Commies. And then two, like, I love these sort of like, trans men are men. Okay, fine. This is the thing. It's like they may still have reproductive parts that belong to women. Yeah, of course they do. None of the surgeries take your uterus out. The whole thing, the whole concept with the new trans stuff is if I don't chop my genitals off and get the new gender, just the sexual organs, right? If I'm a man, I need to be a woman. I need to have big titties and a vagina. This is what I need, or else I die. Okay, fine. And if you're a woman, I need to cut off parts of my, arms and legs and sew it onto me. No one is even talking about removing a uterus from anyone. And I you know what? Maybe I'll have to retract this in 15 minutes, and I actually think I will have to retract this in 15 minutes, because as soon as any lefty hears this argument, they're gonna say, no, it's genocide. It's a genocide if we don't take the functioning uterus, out of women who think they're men for 15 minutes, because the uterus might give them a period, and this might cause them some emotional distress, and this will lead them to kill themselves. And if we don't pay for them to remove the uterus, then they're all going to die. I mean,
I more so wanted to comment just on the fact that I don't know what he knows about tampons and pads. They're not expensive. Ask any woman. They're not expensive. And he's like saying, maybe this is a great reminder. The socialist in him saying, maybe putting these in the bathroom will be a great reminder that these are expensive, and maybe they'll take them home to like their like female family members. Like, that's so weird. Also, isn't he a socialist, and shouldn't he recognize that they are literally putting these in buildings of people who make well over the median income in Canada?
These are MPs. These are MPs. These are like 6-figure salary and golden parachute benefits. Like, never have to pay for anything. Can make more money in bribes than you do your entire year. Yeah. Like, what are we talking? And like, yeah. So you're saying, yeah, the reason why you put them in men's bathrooms is so men can take them and then sell them.
So these expensive products will become more expensive by wasting them in men's bathrooms, where teenage boys will just, use them for like pranks. That's what that is basically. You were subsidizing TikTok pranks for boys.
All right, and why you missed a super? We go to a super chat.
I was going to go back. I didn't miss it. I just didn't want to cut that off too fast. Donna M, thank you for the super chat. Thanks so much, guys. Love your new content. Really appreciate all the work you do. Cheers to all of us in 2024. My expectations for 2024 are meh, because it seemed like good was too much of a ask in 2023. So I'm setting the bar low as much as I can.
And we don't get an election in 2024. So we have 2024 is a full year of Trudeau.
Yeah, no, there's
Um,
no election in 2024. Anyone who says there's an election is trying to fundraise. That's just basically it. I don't blame them for fundraising. It's not wrong to fundraise, but every single time there's a minority government, even some majority governments, everyone thinks that there's a spring election every single year. David Edwards says Orleans riding. He was in City Hall. He voted with Jim Miller on every policy. He says he stopped being a liberal 2 years ago. Oh, this is the follow-up from David talking about the guy who's going to try and run for the Conservatives in his area. Yeah, I'm always skeptical whenever I hear a guy who's like, I stopped being a liberal a bit ago because I didn't like their policies anymore. I don't trust Trudeau, blah, blah, blah. The left started going, why did you like the policies before 2 years ago? How are you so gormless? You thought they were great policies until 5 minutes ago. Obviously, they're not good policies. I hate that.
Listen, if someone had like legit, like, okay, I'm actually anti-mandates and pro-freedom, and like this COVID stuff is too far, and was like open and vocal about it, and you could see their transition, then I'm fine with it. Like, you'll love this example, Wyatt.
Yeah.
If Kevin Vaughn crosses the floor,
I was going to bring him up anyways.
I know you were, so I beat you to it.
He's a good example because he's a liberal who I understand if you're going to get into politics in Toronto, you have to be.
Okay, so he said he got screwed over the party. He has anti-communist views. His friend was shot down on PS 752. The liberals let the Iranian regime get away with it. The Islamic regime in Iran, get away with it. So you understand why you've seen Kevin Vaughn and all the things he said publicly and all the things he said publicly, where it's so unaligned with the liberals' values that it aligns, kind of perfectly with the conservatives' foreign policy, that you actually can stitch together from like all the statements you've seen. Okay, you could see this is why he would jump parties. Fine, right? But it's when someone's like, I think David was right. Like, this is clearly a sign of someone who sees the writing on the wall, wants to stay in politics, wants to be in a cushy environment where there's tampons in the men's room. I'm David. I think your suspicions are accurate. Yeah.
Here's my thing, and this is also in my riding. I think right now the biggest threat to the Conservative Party is red Toryism more than the actual Liberals or the NDP. Those two parties couldn't drag themselves back from the dead if they somehow had the entire Chinese regime funding them. They couldn't do it. Really, the biggest threat is a poly of government having a lot of kind of fake conservatives from convenience people getting into caucus. And while the government starts doing stuff, you get them all hitting the parking brakes and, hey, let's not cut taxes. Hey, let's not cut spending. Hey, let's not do this because that's contentious. And I want an easy job in my office because I only came here because it was seemingly a job.
Yeah, like what happens to the Conservative Party has to do something hard. Like, no, my other thing is people like this are fickle and can be easily whipped. Like people like this often won't stick their head out and be like the most dangerous red Tory you could say is like someone like Michael Chong, who's an actual principled individual, who's a legit red Tory. And I don't have a problem with Michael Chong being in the party. Like I'm fine.
I actually respect him overall.
I respect Michael Chong. He's wrong on the carbon tax. He shouldn't be the leader, right? If Michael Chong runs for leader like he did, I will scream to the hilltops and try and stop him. But if, let's say, hypothetically, Pierre Poilievre makes him a minister of something, fine, right? But Michael Chong, I say he would be the guy who would have the cojones to make a stand to be like, hey, I think we should blah, 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 blah. And if we need to do some serious counterterrorism stuff, or like actually, this is a time to fight the commies in the universities, he would get cold feet and find an excuse not to. But like when it comes to is the Islamic Republic of Iran an actual danger to Canada? Is the CCP a danger? Like he's on there. So
I think a good red Tory, someone who is obviously left on a lot of issues, they're not tolerable because that sounds a little bit too dismissive. Ones that I'm okay with are the people who they're really good on one issue. Kevin Vaughn, if he joined the Conservative caucus, there's a lot of issues he'd probably not be super hawkish on. He's not a social conservative. He's not a lot of things he's probably not a massive fiscal hawk. He's probably more moderate. But on foreign policy, that guy's probably the exact person you want when it comes to being a secretary to a minister of foreign affairs, because he can bridge a lot of gaps, especially geographically. And he's not the type of person who gets cold feet when it comes to opposing the government Iran, opposing the regime in China, all this stuff. Anyway, sorry, I want to get to another super chat. Then we will get past this TikTok video and we'll move on to the one on C11, which will make you scream.
And people say Sean would be good on foreign affairs. It's just that he would be good on foreign affairs. James Besson is my number one pick on foreign affairs. Less flashy, but hard.
I like Michael Cooper as well. Michael Cooper is quite good.
Michael Cooper,
he's more of a jack of trades. Where I think
Michael Cooper doesn't need to be foreign affairs. Michael Cooper should be like minister of being based and saying based things. Like, like whatever minister you need to be the most based and like have the balls to say something, put him there.
That's kind of like Leslie Lewis too, in the sense that Leslie Lewis probably is saying things that a lot of other, not that someone would get kicked out, but I mean in the sense that a lot of other conservative MPs couldn't get away with doing, in the sense that they would end up backing down and running away because they don't have the media strength to fight back. So she can kind of say whatever, and I find a lot of liberal journalists actually avoid trying to do attack pieces on her because she can actually swing back pretty hard. That's where I think that she should be like a general purpose minister in a conservative government. Anyways, Pastor S, we've established two things. One, this YouTuber is a beta male. Two, this YouTuber is a microcosm of how the liberal doesn't think MPs have serious work. And yeah, I don't think this guy considers himself part of the poli-sci community based on other videos I've watched. Never call yourself part of like the poli-sci community or sociology community. Daniel, you have a degree in psychology. Do you consider yourself part of the psychology community? Never.
I am the psychology community. I
know
know all the brains.
I now have a background in policy. I would never call myself part of the policy community, and I don't think there should be something called the policy community. That's stupid. Do not do that. This is someone who hangs out in like a student union lounge and considers themselves very well connected and political because they sit around with people who agree with them.
Also, with things like this, like ideology, like being in communities of like intellectual things, like it's not a brag if you know anything about like poli-sci or sociology or psychology, because then you're like, the way if you get into these communities, then you create groupthink. Like, to be, in my view, an interesting geopolitical or political pundit, you have to have some heterodox takes. Like, I think what white people like us, you guys can tell us because you guys clearly like us or don't hate us at least, is our ability to like, we're not inside any of these communities. We're not part of the establishment conservative commentary. We're not part of the establishment liberal commentary. We don't even fit in the PPC like establishment. Like those communities.
We do not get. We're hated by everyone in a nice way, and everyone also has slight warm feelings to us, which is the perfect position to be in. Like, I don't like the populist community. I don't like anything where it just becomes like, it becomes very gamey whenever you kind of get into these different, especially the social media communities. It gets very gamey of even conservative commentary, even a lot of other conservative YouTube channels. It just becomes stealing other people's news clips, playing something about Justin Trudeau, saying, isn't Justin Trudeau an idiot? And then that's the entire 20-minute video. It's just other people's content. Plus, isn't Trudeau an idiot? I don't care about that stuff. I'd rather something actually be explained. I'd rather someone's opinion actually be put forward rather than just like, jumping into the populist community where I just say, Trudeau's gay or something like that and I get views. Anyways, going back to the video.
Growing daughter. I really don't have much else to say to this video. It is completely expected at this point. They cherish the bathroom so much, yet they will just barge in unannounced.
Hey, Editor JB here. Just wanted to say that if Trudeau did this very stunt, or somebody on the Liberal Party did this very stunt by going into a bathroom and recording unannounced, the Conservatives would absolutely lose their mind, and that's true.
Yeah.
I would contend that anyone would be mad at any male going into like a woman's bathroom. There's a reason why a woman can make this.
This is another thing that should be said. Like this, I know he's part of the poli-sci community, which is not a community and not a science. But if you are a liberal and you're watching this, there's a massive difference between a man going into a woman's bathroom and a woman going to a man's bathroom. This is exactly why the Conservatives had a female MP go into the male bathroom. Well, it's also tampons to the men's.
She's trying to be provocative. At the same time, there's a reason why most of the bathroom debate is about women's bathrooms, because men, to a certain extent, don't care. The thing is
and they don't care because there's an inherent threat of violence when there's a man in a woman-specific space. Not that all men are violent or that like men are, but you guys know there's bad men out there. And there's a reason why the saying is like, never hit a woman, be chivalrous, is because Men are generally, on average, stronger than women, and can, there's the threat of, predation, and women in change rooms and in washrooms are extremely, extremely vulnerable, both, emotionally and physically. Like, that's why it's dangerous for men to be in women's washroom. That's why I don't really care as much. Like, I don't want women in the men's washroom. Like, I like hanging out mixed men and women in a lot of places, and some places you just should be male only, and some places you should be female only. Just the way life is. But there's no, if there's a woman inside a male space, there's no inherent threat of violence or intimidation. Like, it's a lamb walking into a den of wolves. Like, are the wolves going to be mad?
And let's make no mistake. If you watch any of this guy's content history, if it was a liberal woman doing the same thing because of something else that was going on in male bathrooms, as if conservatives mess with bathrooms in any way, shape, or form, they don't, so there would be no point. But if a liberal woman did this, even without having a staffer check, and someone got mad, he'd be like, look at all these snowflake men who don't want women to come into their bathroom. Are they scared? Are they blah, blah, blah? He would immediately do that because every single one of his videos, he's just convinced himself that the conservatives must be wrong. So every time he makes a video, he literally made a video recently about how, like, conservatives were like, oh, stupid conservatives don't think Kwanzaa is a real holiday, and they're trying to dunk on Trudeau, but don't they look?
Does he actually have a Kwanzaa as a real holiday video?
We will go through that. It is so funny. Even his own followers said, hey, I like the video. Even some of his videos say, hey, I like you, man, but you realize Kwanzaa is made by like a racist kidnapper. But anyways, here's the new video on C11. You'll love this one.
Here's what happened today in Canadian politics. So you may have heard over the last few years a lot of uproar about a particular bill in Canada called the Online Streaming Act, or also known as Bill C11. It got to the point where very, very large creators on this very platform, and creators including myself, were contacted by anti-C11 lobbying groups in this ruse to try to tell people that this bill is bad and it's going.
I'm just going to say nobody actually contacted this guy. Let's be real. Nobody contacted this man, especially because the Online Streaming Act does not really affect TikTok in any way. Yeah. It affects YouTube. And this guy has 182 subscribers on YouTube. Nobody contacted him. That is like the most obvious fake story I've ever heard.
Going to censor content and restrict content to Canadians. I, being a politically educated person, looked at the bill and looked at this lobbying group and told them to shove it, despite the thousands of dollars that they were offering me for this sponsorship. But that's not what we're talking about here. This bill essentially is done with, and it went through the whole government, landing in the Department of Canadian Heritage, whose job it was to draft a final report to be handed over to the regulatory body that is the CRTC. That report is what we got today. Essentially, the directive says that the large streaming giants like Netflix, YouTube, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime have to ensure that Canadian content is being shown to Canadians while being used in Canada. Nowhere in the directive says it podcasters need to register with the CRTC, despite what the opposing party is pushing as a rhetoric. This bill, like I said, is done with. The CRTC has its directive, and the CRTC even went as far as to say that we will never regulate content. That is not something the CRTC does. In fact, you can make content about anything you want.
I know. We let him go for a while. Can I please say quickly, what a hero. What a hero. They were probably offering him $10 million and a brand new Lamborghini, and this man turned it down. And notice when he was listing platforms that were going to be regulated, at no point did he actually mention TikTok, which is the only thing. He wasn't even on YouTube at the time, but supposedly he's this big YouTuber that they were offering.
All I want to say is this is a self-proclaimed politically educated man who just said the CRTC does not regulate content. The CRTC's entire existence is to regulate content. That's what they do.
Oh, he has a response to you, and it will also annoy you because it's one of those like obscure facts where is he
like a hyper technicality based on like a misprint in 1987, like that?
Oh, it's what? It's worse than that. It's basically saying, do you know that? Hey, Daniel, when you get arrested, did you know that it's not the minister of justice's name who's like he's not the one who comes and arrests you?
Oh, okay.
His
So
argument.
okay. All right. Okay.
I'll quickly go back to pastoress. Our prime feminist
Feminist.
probably has walked into a women's space and bathroom to preach to women, considering his sister is a male feminist. Yeah, people always forget about the fact that he literally, that a female
She saw a
reporter.
reporter and said she experienced it differently, even though back in 2001 or 2000, when he did sexually assault her, his excuse then was if he knew she was a journalist, he wouldn't have done it, because he only likes to prey on women who can't defend themselves in the public eye. Yes, I would not be surprised if this man has
Yeah.
done whatever.
Yeah, the guy we're currently watching. And the thing is, he'll say, I don't like Trudeau, I don't like the Liberals, because he's a socialist. He dressed like a socialist in like the vast majority of the videos. He's always wearing like a red sweater or whatever, because you have to know from a distance he's obnoxious. But like the thing is that like every single one of his videos, you can even tell he knows that the Liberal Party is very socialistic, because he bends over backwards to defend them. He always will like shrink back and saying, well, I don't like the NDP, I don't like the Greens, I don't like the Liberals because I'm a socialist, so I don't agree with any. But the thing is, he clearly knows they agree with him like 90% of the way, because he comes out of the woodwork to say that whatever they're doing is actually correct, just like this video.
Yeah.
Really big supporter of the little guy, considering that he's totally okay with government coming in and destroying people's content. But that's pretty much all socialists,
including being critical of the government and the CRTC. If anybody knows anything about the CRTC, they do not regulate content. That is not their job. That is the CSBA, which is the Canadian Standards Broadcast Association. The CSBA is a voluntary organization that bigger broadcasters buy into to help ensure that content that enters the Canadian airwaves is sort of safe to listen to. Regardless of all that, Bill C11 and the directive that it created to the CRTC is done. CRTC has its directive. The large online streaming giants now need to follow.
And what is that directive? What is that directive? If it is not to regulate content, what is the directive of the CRTC? Because based on this political expert's telling of it, the CRTC regulates nothing. So what is the CRTC doing? And the CSBC, that's basically just saying that there's a regulatory body that the big networks will basically say, hey, let us know if we use a vulgar word that you didn't like. That's all they're saying. That has nothing to do with warping algorithms, which is obviously a regulation. And his lie that they don't make people register with the CRTC. Yeah, obviously that would be too big of a task to get small creators to register with the CRTC. The thing that's going on here is that the bigger platforms are being regulated. So by proxy, smaller like individuals are regulated. If YouTube gets regulated and you see far less of our videos being recommended because we're not Canadian, that's what is going on here. Like that's we would be regulated.
I will say what people should know though with the CRTC and Canadian content, and I said this a lot during the C11 stuff, but I want to reiterate it. What counts as Canadian content in Canada? People who put themselves under the purview of the CRTC become Canadian content.
Yeah.
Canadians like us that don't submit ourselves to the CRTC don't count as Canadian content. We are two Canadian citizens, both born in Canada, creating content in Canada, mostly for Canadians, and receive money in Canadian dollars. We don't count as Canadian content because we're not regulated by the government. So Canadian content, as defined by the CRTC, is actually content regulated by the Canadian government, not Canadian created content.
I do want to see you, once all these rules come out, I want to see you register with the CRTC just for the CRTC to confirm that you are indeed Indian content.
And ensure that Canadian content is being broadcasted and funded in Canada. And to reiterate, your content's never going to get censored. You are still going to be able to see American content, and you will still be able to see your favorite Canadian creators. I'll talk to y'all soon.
But
here's what happened today in Canadian.
Sorry, but you know what I mean? The thing that annoys me with this guy is it's just, again, all these kind of, it's very arrogant. He's the type of guy, and he's done this in other videos. Well, some people, like other people out there, they will listen to True North, but I'm here to, disprove some of their stuff or give you some factual information. And it's that you can tell he's just convinced himself that the side he's picked always is right. So that and the thing is, there are actually left-wing creators on YouTube who are pushing back against C11, but he's kind of, stuck everyone into, buttonholed everyone, that if you're against C11, it legitimately, he's like, you're paid off because I was attempted to be paid off with my one subscriber. They really
Yeah, I
want.
hate this in politics. Like everyone who disagrees with me is either stupid, or being paid to do so. Like, no, people have different opinions than you. Like even I don't think that lunatic socialist guy is being paid to say that. Like I just think he's a national socialist. Like I just think he believes what he says. And like I believe he went to school, and I believe he got a degree, and I believe he thinks the things he learned in school, and they're just wrong. I think he's wrong. Like doesn't have to be evil, doesn't have to be stupid, doesn't have to be paid off. He can be wrong.
I just saw
Wrong
he has
with
another video on C11 he did after this one.
Oh, God. Make it stop.
So
it
Canadians
stop.
can't see news on social media. I'm going to explain Bill C18 in 2 minutes
Bill
or
C18.
less. Bill C18, also known as the Online News Act, was a bill that was brought forward by the Canadian government in order to help ensure that Canadian journalism and Canadian journalistic entities are being paid for the work that they put out. You see, as it stands right now, Facebook, Instagram, and Google, and all the other social media sites that offers a news type platform are able to take the news from, say, CBC, CTV, Globe and Mail, Toronto.
No, the platforms do not take the news. They have the news on their platforms posted by the news sites or other users themselves. In what reality do you have to pay someone else because they voluntarily came and used something that you did? It would be like if I had like a bar or something like that. We had a back patio and a massive stage, and anyone, if they want, can get up on it and play music or something like that, promote themselves, do whatever you want. And then the government comes over and says, if a guy gets on and starts playing his accordion, you must pay him now because there are 300 people on this patio, and 300 people just listen to that music, and by proxy, they might have bought another beer or something like that. That is effectively Bill C18, is that you've created an open place for discourse where people can benefit from speaking their minds, posting articles, doing all this stuff, but now they owe you for using the thing that you created that would not have existed unless you created it. I'm not a fan of big tech companies because of certain other censorious things that they do, but I'm never going to accuse somehow Zuckerberg of being worse than whatever the liberals are going to come up with in regulation. But like, even just like the comment on the side of this video is just ridiculous. But sorry, but what were you going to say? He's like, the C18 in no way is in no way censorship. It's just a way to keep independent journalism alive by funding them correctly. No, not a single independent media outlet will get $1 from Bill C18, because remember, Bill C18 did come along with a bunch of government money that just went a lot right to the legacy media. It was a bit of an omnibus bill where they had all these extra regulations plus like another, like I think it was like $150 million for the legacy media. True North didn't get any of that money. Western Standard didn't get any of that money. Even left-wing outlets, Canada Land did not get any of that money. It's independent journalism means that technically when you break the CBC down, there are independent journalists who work for them. They just mean individual.
Yeah, they mean individual journalists, part of the collective. Yeah, just get this. I'm not even commenting. Just get this out. Let's just rip this Band-Aid off. This is like
Toronto Star, whatever, put it on their site and not give credit to the original journalist, nor do they ever link to the original site. This means that revenue cannot be generated by the journalistic entity or the journalists themselves, and in fact, there are ads being run over top of the journalistic story on these respected social media sites. So this means that Facebook, Instagram, and Google are profiting off of another person's work or another entity's work, and are not obligated to give any of that profit to the actual person that created the story that people read. So this bill aims to help bridge that gap and ensure that Canadian journalism is funded by these tech giants that are taking their work and profiting off it. Nowhere in the bill does it say if they cannot pay the journalist or journalistic entity or refuse to pay them, that the news needs to be blocked or removed off of social media. The blocking or the banning of news in Canada is entirely a protest from the tech giants because they do not want to pay. And of course, they are spinning it and saying it's because of this act and it's this act that's causing this to happen, blah, blah, blah. That's just,
political spin. The reality is that these tech giants are not paying for the work. They are essentially stealing and also profiting off of the work that they're taking from journalists. This act was intended to help bridge that gap and make it fair and keep journalism funded in Canada.
Okay,
This guy
this is just socialism. This is just socialism. So he doesn't understand stealing. He doesn't understand what work is. He doesn't understand what and
Here's
all
dude,
that
have you ever seen a article on Facebook or Google that was just posted with like it was copy and paste ripped content that Facebook or Google stole and put on their own thing? It's never happened. That's not how it works. With
it's
Google,
like, listen, I would understand
Google and they can put it on their app and they pay you for when you appear in it because it's like a curated app that Google has subscribers for. That's different. Journalists do get paid for that. I've never seen any of our articles or any other website's articles where it wasn't the article itself that links to the website where there are ads running. That's how you get money.
I mean, what he's pretending is that you would have to be monumentally stupid to believe this. But what he's essentially claiming is that like the way people post like articles on Facebook, the way you all shared articles on Facebook and Instagram and wherever you share articles before, is you just take a giant screenshot of the article and just post that, and then you black out the journalist's name, right? You have the headline like, you know, Justin Trudeau. Yes, this. Yeah. Justin Trudeau bad by Daniel Boardman. You go black line over Daniel Boardman and then do the whole thing and just post it. And then like, no. When you post articles, you're like, I like this. You click the link, you post it, and then you put a caption like, you know, this article, something, 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 whatever, bananas. And then people like whatever. And if you click on that, it goes to the article, their website page. Like the reason, like social media, as people who run a news company, an independent news company, social media is a great tool to drive traffic to your website. It's actually what it does.
We loved it. I loved having 75,000 people on Facebook that we could, post videos to and stream to. And now we're just on
post
Facebook.
articles and have them share and like and see them. Yeah. And then this got nuked because
and the idea is, well, Facebook and the big tech companies, all they have to do is pay up, and it's their fault that the reason that they have to block it is because the Trudeau government is going to sue them if they do not pay journalists if their stuff is still on. So Facebook,
they're going to lose money. They're going to lose money.
I believe the estimate for Facebook was they were going to have to pay $56 million a year for this Canadian content. And again, it does not benefit Facebook for you to click off and go to another site. Facebook allows it because that's content people want to see. There's a reason Facebook does reward when people post videos, directly upload them to Facebook, because it keeps people on Facebook and they get more money from the ads that get serviced on those videos.
It's the first rule I learned when like when I started doing this, Sia, who I started with, who was more experienced on this, like you put if you want to get something on Facebook videos to Facebook, YouTube videos to YouTube, you don't run ads for Pepsi on Coke.com. They're not gonna let that do that. They're gonna anything like YouTube videos express. So if you want to make a video, put it on YouTube for the YouTube audience. Put it on as a Facebook video for your Facebook audience. Like, this is the thing. And the reason why Facebook allows you to click off on this, they don't want you to. They want you to keep scrolling. But if Facebook but they know that if Facebook is the place you go to centralize your news, if you're on Facebook and they let you go off, be like, oh, I click on news, National Post, something, Fort McMurray Bakeathon. Oh, and then whatever, you read it, and then you go back to Facebook to see your next news article. Then they're like, okay, we're the homepage for news. We benefit off that. Like,
yeah, but this guy does strike me. He does look and sound like a guy who probably has used the word in the past, emotional labor. The socials do not understand how, like you were saying, how work actually works. Also, again, I would love for him, and I guarantee there's an example out there, but is there a big issue with Google and Facebook stealing people's content? That's never happened. That's just never happened. It's just a fantasy. This is like a TrueAnon conspiracy where it's somehow that Trudeau is out there fighting Trudeau is out there fighting Mark Zuckerberg and trying to take back all the Toronto Star's revenues that they lost.
Listen, you can find these people in politics, and they exist left, right, center, and it's outside of politics too. And there always are people who will look for anything that confirms their viewpoint or political position or whatever position, and then just take that as absolute fact and not want to critically examine it because they don't want to critically examine anything, right? And this is often the mentality that produces the type of person who lines up left or right on every single issue across the board, because you just kind of look for whatever confirms your predisposed notions, and then you just don't examine it. You're just like, oh yes, like that's his whole C18 video. It's just like just taking a government talking point, something Omar Al-Ghabra said, pulled out of his ass at a press conference, and then said, oh yes, this is now fact, and then ignoring everything else to the right because like, oh good, I have something to disprove it, like without actually thinking about the type of proof he's getting. And like you could see this left and right. Like it's easier. Well, you can see it on the left. It's easier or to spot on the left, kind of, because you know the truth and you can see, oh, they're being dumb. It's also pretty easy to spot on the right if you're open to it, because you should know your side of the argument. And when you see people on your side being like just latching on to like random straws to get to a point, not actually like, okay, I know you're saying that because that's like sort of a popular thing out in the ether to say, but like the actual justification for us being against the carbon tax is XYZ, not like.
And this is an example of why I don't like. This is why TikTok and places like TikTok are awful platforms, because no one on TikTok would be able to correct this guy. Because who's going to watch on TikTok a thing for people to scroll through very fast is ever going to watch this get debunked? So it's just someone can rapid fire out a few like, and it's all, I find a lot of TikTok is about attitude projection and self-promotion. It's making yourself seem smart. It's kind of like, clap back kind of culture, snap. Didn't you know that C18 isn't censorship, you dumbass? That's basically the entire thing. That's as far as most people are ever going to watch. Oh, C18 doesn't actually censor things. There's a bunch of conservatives out there who are probably paid by like a lobbying firm to say it is. I've not been approached by a lobbying firm for TNT, and we have way more invested in him on social media platforms that are getting regulated. I do not believe him for a second that anyone has approached him with more than a candy wrapper to bribe him for anything.
Yeah, and like who would have thousands of dollars to pay random TikTokers to,
YouTubers already have enough incentive to oppose it. JJ McCullough is like the top guy opposing C11 and C18. He's never had to be given a dime to do it. He's probably paid more money flying to Ottawa to go to Senate hearings and like House hearings to speak on this than he has ever actually gotten from the video.
I think if you're actually invited to the hearings, you get reimbursed on travel and board. But
I think it's your hotel rooms. Anyways, but you waste a lot of time on it.
But JJ McCullough, you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if JJ McCullough spent a couple thousand of his own money to advocate for what he believes on C18. Like, but
yeah, and there's a
the
reason.
best advocates for positions are often the people who truly believe it and will do research and facts on things like on their own. Like paying people to hold political positions is often fruitless because they will never really do a good job of it. Like they'll never make content worth the money.
Yeah.
Right. That's why like the best advertiser, content creator, synergy is often when like, it's conservatives or liberals. It's like, this is a company I believe in. Like when they can literally say like, okay, like, okay, sometimes the bench bureau like sleep helix, blah, blah, blah. So like, okay, it's a bed and whatever, but like, Black Rare Coffee, it's veterans and they're anti-woke. And like, I believe we got to support. It's like, then you actually invest in them and they're like, no, they've invested in us. They have similar values. You have similar values, guys, come on. Like that's way more appealing than like, Birch Gold, right?
Yeah. No, and even this guy, I think this guy's probably sincere with what he believes. And the thing is, I was actually talking to someone today about this. I almost don't even like the term grifter. There's very, very few grifters in the world. People wake up in the morning believing the things they believe. Even if someone is factually incorrect, or even if the person obviously took their position in a reactionary way, like this guy seems to, 100% he believes everything he thinks because he's so ideological. Even if he takes a position not barely knowing what he's talking about, he cannot conceive of a reality where he's wrong. But I want to go to the YouTube channel. That guy has 250,000 followers or something around that on TikTok. That is why it's scary, because I guarantee this guy could even do pretty well on YouTube potentially. He has the style. I'll show you some of his newer videos. It's much better lighting. But that's why, again, TikTok content, a lot of political content, even on the right, is so empty these days. It's all style. It's all presentation. There's so many videos. Like, I'm going to name a guy because I don't really care what he thinks about me. Unacceptable Fringe. That guy's YouTube channel is horrible. It's technically conservative content. It's like 17-minute videos, 14-minute videos where he maybe talks and actually provides his own commentary for about a minute and a half. And the rest of it is just reading other people's articles and playing their videos. It's like borderline content theft. I don't understand why people watch him, but this guy's basically the left-wing version. A liberal press release comes out, he reads it, and then he makes a video basically plagiarizing it, changing some of the words, and that's his response to like the latest conservative trend he's trying to debunk. But here's the YouTube channel, because I want to show you one last video where he effectively steals Mark or do you want to see the Kwanzaa one? Do you want to?
I don't know. I mean, just the fact that he has a Kwanzaa video is good enough. Let's finish. We're at an hour now. Let's finish on a Mark Garrison.
I technically reviewed his Kwanzaa video. This one's only 4 minutes and 24 seconds, so I want you to see it. He has another one I reviewed myself, as well as with like Russell from the conservative Canadian conservative podcast, and then Chris from the Great Canadian one, where it's like why polls don't matter. It's really embarrassing. It's basically saying that the conservatives are ahead in the polls, so they must be wrong. And then he makes an argument that's unethical to release polls between elections when it's too far out. It's so blatantly like, I know for a fact he would be making videos about how good the Liberals were doing in the polls if the Liberals or the NDP was ahead, and how pathetic it makes Pierre Poilievre look. And
I'm kind of with Dawn on this. She's like, no, please, no more. I've kind of at my I mean, I look at the title and I know what's going to be in this.
It doesn't have a
video.
plan. Well, I always doesn't have a plan.
Okay, play it and don't pause it. I might just talk over this at points to streamline it.
I think though that the problem with us trying to talk over it is I do believe that the volume is louder than us, so like we can't really be heard if he's talking. So I'll just be more liberal with the pausing. I'll play larger sections. Maybe I'll even play the whole thing.
Hey, listen, you know what? Screw this guy. Donna has a request. She did a super chat earlier. We'll talk about the e-bike battery on the TTC. Although I don't really know what to say about it. It's like, yeah, there are problems with lithium batteries and safety that we should probably look at. Well, I think this is indicative of like the regulations go down when you can call something green, and things that are green are often not good for the environment, but they're good for the sort of political establishment. What is green energy? Green energy is money laundering. Okay, that's what it is. That's what it's designed to do. It's not designed to save the planet. It's designed to launder money, like most things in the world, but green energy more so than others. Will this get memory hold? Yes. Why? Because the ultimate story is there are problems in green energy, and I'm not an over-regulate guy, like we need to do this, but this mentality sort of ruins the free market ethos. Like, I have no problems with like these electric bikes and electric scooters. Like, they're fast to get around. They're for like single travel. Like, listen, if you're like working class and like whatever, it makes sense that you can have like a scooter, so you don't need to Uber places, and you want to avoid the TTC. Great. Like, well, this guy has an e-bike on the TTC. Like, I'm fine for these innovations. My problem is, one of the things that helps push technology forward and makes it cheaper and more efficient and ultimately cleaner in the long run is legitimate market pressures, right? So if we can talk about like, okay, what are the concerns with e-batteries? Like, what are the electric batteries? What are the concerns in like the mining? What are the concerns? It's like, I'm not I read the Lorax as a kid. This is why I like Canadian oil companies, because they have a mandate that they have to fix the land, and return it to the way it was after they are done with it. This is why Justin Trudeau's attack on the oil companies has caused an ecological disaster with these orphaned wells, because he's driving oil companies out of business so they cannot fix the land that they use because they're out of business, and then it all goes to hell. There's no standards in these lithium mines. Because it's called green, right? Anything you can label with green, all the standards and all the market pressures go out the window, because there's this unholy alliance between, the media class, the political class, the academic class, and all this, where they just like we memory hole anything and drive people crazy over the e-bike thing. So on the large scale, this, e-bikes having a problem is less of a big deal than I think people will make it out to be. But I think the reason people are making it out to be such a big deal is because they know that the establishment will have a underreaction to this for obvious political reasons. And I think the anger at the e-bike going boom on the TTC is actually really legitimate anger directed at the entire green energy system, which is creating all these problems.
And here, maybe I'm not sure if you agree or not, but I think there's a concept that I've been thinking about that really, if you're ever looking the greenest solution, and this is maybe not exactly correct in all situations, but the greenest solution, or the thing that's going to cause the least amount of emissions, if you really, really care about emissions, is getting the energy as close to home as humanly possible if it's widely available. If you live in a town where there is a coal mine 7 kilometers away, you should probably use coal because it is a 7-kilometer away truck stop, like from pickup to drop off, to be able to use that stuff. The problem with a lot of green energy is it's like 4 cargo ship trips to get all of the materials together. Then you have to manufacture it overseas, and then you have to ship it to Canada, or you have to ship all the parts to Canada to manufacture it, probably with a bunch of unionized workers that the government is forcing companies to overpay, causing a bunch of extra issues with like way too many like workers needed to do one job and whatnot, which is a big waste of energy and everything like that. You should always just use what's easily available. That is how the US between 2016 and 2020 lowered emissions, because they said, hey, you can use the natural gas that's in your own state to fuel things. You are not mandated to get green technology from out of state to do something. You don't have to, you don't need wind turbines. You don't need all this other stuff. You don't need like extra regulations. You don't need to use coal because we're hyper like regulating oil and gas. And for some reason, like a lot of coal lobby groups tend to have lighter regulations. Just use what's easiest to use. It's simple.
If only life was so easy. If only someone who wasn't retarded was running the country.
I do want to ask one more question for one more subject, because I think this is going to be a complete dry fart of an issue over the next year. Yet I think people are going to freak out about it a lot this first week of 2024. Do you think that Jagmeet Singh is going to force an election this year?
No.
Good. We have discussed that fully. We have gone through every nook and cranny. We have turned it over in our hands as much as humanly possible to find anything we've missed. And we have
changed my answer to hard no.
Yeah, just add a period to the end of the no to make sure that people know that there's nothing else coming. Jagmeet Singh is a fool. There's no election 24. He keeps saying that I don't want another partnership with the Liberals, yet he keeps doing it. But
yeah, I mean, he's lying. This is a great political tactic. If you're on the side that has more political and media clout, off in the left, a great tactic politically is to lie, because you don't get called out on it. So I recommend, if you're in the NDP or the Liberals and you want to say something to the public, I suggest you just lie, because you'll never really be called out on it.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's a great note to end off this episode. A great little piece of advice out of the cap of Mr. Daniel Boardman. So
lie to the public.
Yeah, lie to the public. Lie better. Basically, get better at lying.
I would appreciate if they lie better. It would be, listen, Liberals, NDP, I would appreciate you lie better, so I feel like you're putting some effort into the deception.
It would make my content more interesting. I could talk a little bit more about why what the Liberals and NDP are saying isn't true, rather than just saying they say the economy is going really well. It's not. I mean, at least come up with at least a clever metric where it makes the economy look a little bit better than it is, or whatever. But I'm not sure when we're going to do the next video. It will be at some time in some place on some computer, unless the apocalypse happens.
This is also why I sometimes ask why, like, what days and times are going to be available, and he kind of wings it, and then why it's like why it's like this, and I'm like, sorry, I'm out on the streets fighting communists and jihadists and trying to save the the country from.
Well, also I'm door knocking more now. Also, if
Yeah,
you
yeah, you're door knocking. Yeah, you're
door knocking times kind of overlap because you're 2 hours ahead of me usually. Like I'm usually door knocking from like 3:30 to 7:30, and that kind of like any because I can't do it live stream early because everyone's at work, and I can't do it later because everyone's asleep. This is just a great. We do it every once in a while. Maybe Daniel, you can do more solo streams here and there as time goes on. I'll make sure we get you a better microphone for our streaming, so you don't always have to like fight with your lapel mic. But yeah, we're trying.
It's Yellowknife, so we're going raw computer sound.
Yeah. So if the internet goes out worldwide in the next week and you want to catch the next stream, drive to Yellowknife. I'll be there. He'll be there. We'll sit in the town square.
Oh, I'm heading back to Toronto tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah. So other than that, everyone, you know what to do. Click the subscribe buttons, click the like buttons, click the share buttons, click all the buttons. And we'll see you guys next time. Same bat time, same bat place, as Daniel usually says at the end of his things. I'm stealing his lines because I have nothing of my own.
Yes, because that was an original Daniel Boardman line.
Oh, yeah. No. Adam West stole it. Well, I guess until next time.
See you guys.